Christian nationalists want to turn America into a theocracy, a government under biblical rule. If things go their way this election, it could mean more power for them and fewer rights for you. I'm Heath Drusen, and on the new season of Extremely American, I'll take you inside the movement that seeks to rebuild the country in God's image. Listen to Extremely American from Boise State Public Radio, part of the NPR network.
Happy Monday, it's The Connector from Boise State Public Radio News. Good morning, I'm Troy Oppie. On the program this morning, Idaho's voter-approved Medicaid expansion program is on the chopping block. That's under a new bill introduced at the State House Friday. Schools are no longer considered sensitive places for immigration agents to avoid. We'll get reaction from around our region. Plus, a Boise State physics professor found new data on Mars weather by studying drone flight patterns. We'll get those stories and more to catch you up from this weekend on The Connector, Idaho Daily News from Boise State Public Radio. Several hundred people rallied on the State House steps this weekend in support of laws banning abortion in Idaho. The Idaho Statesman reports speakers included Megan Wold, the lobbyist who previously clerked for U.S. Supreme Court Justice Samuel Alito. Wold's firm is Cooper & Cook, which has been retained as outside counsel by Idaho Attorney General Raul Labrador on multiple cases, including the federal challenge to Idaho's abortion law over its effect on emergency care. Wold also spoke at last year's March for Life event, which is one of many organized across the country. It comes a week after the Idaho Women's March rallied at the Capitol in support of reproductive and other rights. Idaho's voter-approved Medicaid expansion program is on the chopping block under a new bill introduced Friday. James Dawson has the latest.
If passed into law, the bill would completely repeal Medicaid expansion in Idaho, which serves about 85,000 people. The program is estimated to cost the state nearly $98 million under Governor Brad Little's budget plan next fiscal year, or 10% of its Medicaid share. Republican Representative John Vanderwoude introduced the repeal bill.
We're on a trajectory that I just don't think we can afford to continue, and I do think we need to take a closer look on how this is funded, what the programs are.
House Minority Leader Alana Rebel says cutting Medicaid expansion entirely would actually cost Idaho more in the long run.
There have been huge savings throughout the system in corrections and behavioral health, certainly in terms of all those funds we had to stand up before to ensure we don't lose all our rural hospitals.
Vanderwoude's bill would not replace Medicaid expansion with indigent care programs Idaho previously had in place. James Dawson, Boise State Public Radio News.
Federal officials say they've arrested nearly 50 people in the north suburbs of Denver following a raid early Sunday. The Drug Enforcement Administration says they conducted the raid to target drug trafficking and members of a Venezuelan gang. They say people who were detained at what they called a makeshift nightclub are in the United States without authorization. They seized drugs, weapons, and cash, but did not specify how many or what kinds. The Wall Street Journal recently reported the Trump administration has authorized federal agencies like the DEA to begin making immigration arrests and processing deportations. The Trump administration has also canceled guidance that labeled schools sensitive places for immigration agents to avoid. The Mount West News Bureau's Rachel Cohen asked districts across our region about how they're responding.
School districts the Bureau reached out to in the Mountain West states varied. A small one in Colorado's Central Mountain says its priority is making its students feel safe.
Many are quite anxious, understandably.
Tony Bird is superintendent of Summit School District. 40% of the student body is Hispanic and about a quarter are English language learners. Just before the inauguration, the board set up a plan if ICE arrives. The front office staff is prepared to call Bird, and he'll ask if they have a judicial warrant.
If they have an administrative warrant, we will request that they get a judicial warrant. If I'm not available, then we will ask our director of safety to meet with them.
Summit is also urging families to update their emergency contact information on file. For the Mountain West News Bureau, I'm Rachel Cohen.
Two people are okay after the Razor off-road vehicle they were riding in Saturday fell through ice on Payette Lake near Legacy Beach in McCall. McCall Fire and Rescue says first responders were already out helping another person who'd fallen through thin ice into the water when they saw two UTVs driving across the lake. One broke through and sank. Multiple people and pets have fallen through thin ice on the lake this winter, officials say. The lake is not solid in all areas. Officials urge caution. City of McCall says the UTV is at the bottom of the lake, but there is no concern over drinking water quality as the nearby inlet is turned off for the winter season. Idaho Power is planning a 200-megawatt battery farm at its southeast Boise substation on Amity Road. Boise Dev reports the project is intended to help the utility keep up with peak hour demands from its growing customer base. Stored power could supply up to 70,000 homes for up to 4 hours, according to the utility. Idaho Power says it's addressed noise and fire danger concerns brought up by neighbors, and now will take its request to Boise's Planning and Zoning Commission next week. The superintendent of the Weiser School District is resigning, effective the end of this week. The local publication Weiser Signal American first reported the decision by Kenneth Doolin. He served as superintendent for 3 years, according to his online district biography page. Weiser's Board of Trustees have not yet named an interim superintendent to finish the school year. Idaho Ed News reports they have interviews with 2 candidates scheduled Tuesday. A Boise State physics professor found new data on Mars weather by studying drone flight patterns. Jamie Geary has more.
In February of 2021, NASA's Perseverance rover landed on the surface of Mars. The rover carried a small drone called Ingenuity, designed to test potential air travel on the red planet. Boise State physics professor Brian Jackson worked with NASA to get access to Ingenuity flight data. He used it to analyze Martian weather patterns.
People have been using data from the engineering sensors and aerial drones for actually a while to measure winds, wind speeds, and directions. But no one had really done it. No one had done it at all for Mars.
Jackson's team used complex physics equations and videos of Ingenuity's flights to calculate the wind speed and velocity of Mars's atmosphere up to 60 feet above the planet's surface. His study was accepted by the Planetary Science Journal late last year.
The numbers that we got were surprising. The winds seemed like they were blowing a lot harder than anyone expected.
Jackson says his Boise-based weather research could help with planning human missions to Mars in the coming decades.
We hope someday to send people to Mars, and understanding what the weather is doing is going to be very important for, safety and effective navigation of Mars by people.
Jackson's research team has analyzed wind data from only 7 of Ingenuity's 72 flights. The team will continue the project when more data becomes available from NASA. Jamie Geary, Boise State Public Radio News.
What a fascinating story with a great local twist to wrap us up on this Monday. Thanks for listening to the Connector Idaho Daily News. Like and subscribe. That helps other people find this podcast as well. It is a production of Boise State Public Radio News. I'm Troy Oppie. Our news director is Sasha Woodruff. Our general manager is Tom Michael. I'll catch you again bright and early tomorrow.